Think we're live. What's up, Peggy? What's up, Rhonda? What's up, J-Jax? Yeah, Rhonda, this is the place that I spoke about before. And when we start going through this lawsuit, if you think you're upset previously, just wait. Yes, Peggy. Yes, they were found. Hey, what's up, Susan? And if for those of you that are on Facebook, remember if you comment, we don't see your name in the YouTube chat. Sometimes we don't even see your comments. So if at all possible, go to the YouTube channel and watch on the YouTube channel if you want to interact with the chat. Before we get started, I will put a link to the lawsuit in the chat so that the moderators will have it. All right, there is the copy of the 45-page lawsuit. I was just reading a lawsuit the other day that was 18 pages, and I thought it was pretty juicy, but this one's bad. It's really bad. I'm just waiting to get a few more people on here, and then we're going to get started. What's up, Tina? Sedalia, Missouri, home of State Fair College. Been there a few times to watch some women's basketball. Matter of fact, one of the coaches on this lawsuit used to coach a team that used to play against State Fair. So I've actually been there to watch basketball. Nice little town. They have a great car show there every year. Some classic cars. Nice town. All right, Nosey's here. Nosey, I'm going to bring you on later when I get to some of this juicy stuff, because I'm going to try and keep my composure, but I'll let you express things that I might want to say. No, Peggy, I've ordered the clutch. I got to wait for it to come in. And then once it comes in, I have to pull the transmission, the front axle, because it's a front wheel drive. It's going to be a mess. And I might as well replace all the bearings on the transmission. And so I'm not looking forward to it yet. Oh, they don't have the car show anymore? That's too bad. See, that tells you how long ago it was when I was there. All right, let me pull this up. And like I said, for those of you that are on Facebook, if you comment, we don't see it over here on YouTube. Or if we do see it, your name's not there. So if you're on Facebook and you're commenting, matter of fact, here, let me... No, I won't pull it up. I don't think I can keep track of it. But if you're on Facebook commenting, we're probably not going to see your comments. We're not ignoring you, but over here, everything is easier on the YouTube chat. All right, let me pull up the first page of this lawsuit, and let's we'll get through it, and then I'm going to bring Nosy on here. I think I'll bring some others on as well. I think I will bring some more people on, because I think it's gonna set me off too much, and so I'm going to bring some of you others on here, some of you regulars on here in a little bit. All right, here we go. I'm going to start off with the plaintiffs, which these are 3 women's basketball coaches. Back in December of 2019, Highland Community College suspended these 3 basketball coaches, and the school alleged that these coaches committed acts of academic fraud. Basically, what they said is that these coaches were doing schoolwork for the players and changing grades or doing their work and turning them in or something like that. It was alleged academic fraud. That's what they said it was. But I will tell you, before they even did that, a few weeks before they did that, they actually had discussions with past employees of the school and said, here's what's going on. We're finding some computers that belong to coaches, and homework is being turned in on these computers. And the people they talked to, which were numerous people, said, yeah, that's fine. That's not against the rules. It's just players using a coach's computer because our computer lab doesn't have enough computers for the whole school. Or the computer lab is not open, and so players would go into the coach's office and use whatever computer was there to turn in their work. That's all it was. And these administrators, the athletic director and the president of the college, tried to turn that into these coaches are doing the work for these players. That's what they said. And instead of doing an investigation, they suspended the 3 coaches right away before they even did an investigation. So you have these 3 guys, BJ Smith, Bradford Zinn, and Jared Ross. So you have Coach Smith, Coach Z, and Coach Ross. And they are suing the actual college, Highland Community College, the board of trustees for the school, Russell Karn, who has been a longtime board member at the school, Deborah Fox, who is the president of the college, and Brian Dorrell, who is the athletic director at Highland Community College. Nosy, it's not a problem. It's pretty normal for players to go into the coach's office and do their work on one of the computers that are there. That's all they were doing because maybe the computer lab wasn't open, so they couldn't turn in their work. And this is a college. These are out-of-state players. Out of, I think, the 13 players, only 1 or 2 of them actually had their own laptop. The other players, they didn't even have a computer. So they had to go to computer lab at the school. If that wasn't open, they'd go to the coach's office and turn in their work there. Peggy says every person on the board is old and white. Well, I don't know if they're old, but they are white and they're all male. There are no females on that school board, but they are all white. The people on that school board, they're going to be named here in a little bit, Nosy. They're listed in here later. All right, so here we go. Plaintiffs, through undersigned counsel, bring this action against the defendants for violation of their federal constitutional and statutory rights, in support of which they allege the following. This case arises as a result of a long-standing policy, pattern, and practice of racial harassment and racial discrimination by Highland Community College. And I will say, I've gotten 3 text messages since I did that first video of parents that are still having issues with this college, where this college will not release the transcripts of their kids so their kids can't get back into college. They stopped the process of higher education for some of these students because they put a ransom on their transcript. All right, let me get back here. A pattern and practice of racial harassment and racial discrimination by Highland Community College, which we'll now call HCC or Highland, against its student athletes, the majority of who are African American. right, since at least 2019, HCC's administration conducted a concerted campaign to discourage African American student athletes from attending HCC, intimidate enrolled black student athletes into leaving through systemic harassment based on race, and shamelessly coerced its coaching staff to refrain from recruiting prospective African American student athletes. Rhonda, you're gonna get upset when you see some of this stuff. Indeed, plaintiffs allege that the Highland Community College Board of Trustees hired and conspired with a new administration to accomplish these and other unlawful objectives. Coaches and staff who opposed Highland Community College discriminatory practices were disciplined, and in case of these 3 coaches, had their employment unlawfully terminated by Highland Community College without due process and with clear malicious intent to damage their reputations, discredit their testimony in the attempt to cover up its campaign of racial harassment. When you see the stuff that these people did, and like I said in the earlier video, I have recordings of almost all of this stuff. It's not like it's he said, she said. There's actual recordings of almost everything that's here. It's absolutely remarkable, all the recordings. Among the many unlawful actions taken by HCC was suspending plaintiffs' employment as the coaching staff for its women's basketball team in mid-season on bogus allegations of supposed National Junior College Athletic Association rules violations involving academic misconduct. And like I said earlier, they knew that what the students were doing was not against any rules whatsoever. They knew ahead of time. They knew it wasn't a problem. But because these coaches would not do this make Highland white again thing, they went after them. Yeah, these audio recordings, they're amazing. All right, as set forth in detail below, Highland Community College and its athletic director, defendant Brian Dorrell, used a 3-pronged strategy to reduce the number of African American student athletes by expelling them, subjecting black prospective recruits to excessive scrutiny, such as background checks, not imposed on white recruits, and directing coaches to recruit white prospective student athletes over black prospects. And this background checks, the athletic director was telling these coaches, do background checks on this player, this player, this player, this player. And it just so happened all the players he was requesting these background checks on were African American. Hey, what's up, Becca? And good morning over there to you. And there's multiple witnesses who have come forward with these affidavits, with these background checks, and some of them were the ones doing the background checks. Dorrell, I'm going to say his whole name, Brian Dorrell, regularly directed the football, women's basketball, and men's basketball coaches to recruit more players who the culture of our community can relate to, and to no longer recruit players who wore their hair in dreadlocks or wicks, hairstyles popular among African Americans. And what was said, this was in the video that I made in January of 2020, where Brian Dorrell is telling coaches, or this one coach, to recruit more players that the culture of the community can relate to. Highland, Kansas has around 1,000 residents. There's less than a handful of black people that actually live in the town when you don't count the students. If you count the students, like the student athletes, then the population there is like 10% African American. But that's because these students are out of state. They move to Kansas, they get a new driver's license, and then they become residents of Highland, Kansas. But they don't make up, I mean, they do make up the population, but not really. I mean, they're college students there. It says they're residents of Highland, Kansas, but they're out-of-state college students. Additionally, as detailed herein the HCC Board of Trustees, led by defendant Russell Karn, pushed to hire new president Deborah Fox for the specific purpose of implementing the board's apparent vision to transform HCC into, I'm just going to keep saying, make Highland white again place, because that's what it was. They wanted the campus to have fewer African-American athletes. I was told by people who, I'll just say, used to work there, that they wanted less thugs on the campus. That's what they would say. We need less thugs on campus. And by thugs, they meant the African-American people. That's what they would call them, were thugs. The board selected both Fox and Dorrell despite their glaring lack of qualification for their positions, because they enthusiastically agreed to execute the racially discriminatory policies alleged here by aggressively retaliating against coaches, including plaintiffs who resisted the administration. I'm telling you, just wait till we get to this stuff. Moreover, HCC further retaliated against plaintiffs in violation. For you all that are women, you're really going to be upset, because they treated this women's basketball team so bad. They did horrible things to this women's team. And not only these people, matter of fact, one of the board members' wives, I'll get to that later. One of the board members' wives is a teacher at the high school there. And one of the coaches has a kid that goes to that high school. That board member's wife is a teacher of this high school student. In front of the class, this teacher called this kid an asshole. And the principal didn't do anything about it. The principal knows it happened. This teacher called this student an asshole in front of the class. And I think because the kid asked if he could go to the bathroom or something. It was something minor. I think the kid was, I don't know if he was a junior in high school, but the teacher actually, the kid got up and left the room. And after he left the room, the teacher said, "He's such an asshole," or something like that to the whole class. I can get the whole story for you if you want, but the board and the board member's wife, who's the teacher up there, they need to be gone. It's pathetic. All right. Moreover, HCC further retaliated against plaintiffs in violation of Title IX by suspending plaintiffs and forcing Plaintiff Smith, who was the head coach, to coach its women's basketball team alone without assistance for nearly half the 2019-20 season. In effect, Highland's Board of Trustees and administration intentionally discriminated against its African-American student athletes because of their race, punished any students or staff who objected without due process, and thereby caused irreparable damage to the plaintiff's reputation and ability to pursue their chosen profession. And I will tell you, when all this stuff went down, this women's basketball team was ranked number 5 in the country and 13-0. And they were crushing people. They were crushing people. To this day, Highland Community College in Highland, Kansas, has never disclosed the nature of the alleged academic misconduct violations, nor informed plaintiffs of the reasons for their termination. Despite applying for literally hundreds of junior college and collegiate coaching positions, because of the reputational injury intentionally inflicted by defendants, plaintiffs have been unable to obtain employment in their chosen profession and were even told by prospective schools they were not employable because of bogus NJCAA violations that Highland Community College manufactured out of whole cloth. Hold on here. These coaches can't even get a job. Every time they apply for a job someplace, sorry, we can't hire you because of this academic dishonesty stuff that happened, or it didn't happen. We don't want to get in the middle of it. We don't want to be involved in it. And worse than that, but can't put everything out there, right? All right, number 6. Plaintiffs bring this action under 42 U.S.C. 1983 for a violation of their federal constitutional and statutory rights, including specifically deprivation of a protected property interest in continued employment and liberty interest to be free from government defamation without due process, in violation of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Yes, Rhonda, they're blacklisted. That's exactly what it is. And, well, we'll get to it. Because the head coach was one of the best coaches in the country. And you're going to see here pretty soon why I say that. And now can't even get a job coaching elementary basketball. Can't even get a job coaching junior high basketball or high school basketball. You go from being the 2012 National Coach of the Year, and you can't even get a job coaching high school. In addition, plaintiffs assert claims for unlawful discrimination and retaliation based on race in violation of 42 U.S.C. 1981, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act for civil rights conspiracy pursuant, retaliation. Okay, we're going to keep going. Title IX. I don't want to read all this lawyer stuff here. All right, this court has original jurisdiction of the federal questions presented herein. We're going to go past that. This court has subject matter. All right, so I don't want to read that. I mean, it's just saying that this is the right place to have this done. Now, here's something. Plaintiff B.J. Smith, Coach Smith, is a resident of Highland, Kansas, and former head coach of women's basketball at HCC. He still lives in this town. This guy still lives in Highland. We're gonna get into him more later. And I know some of you already know, but we're gonna get into it later. But he still lives in this town, and he's married, and his wife's 2 kids still go to high school in this town, where they are targeted as well by some people in this town, specifically a board member's wife and a couple others. It's not everyone in the town. It's just a handful of people there that are upset because they can't control the white population at the school. All right, plaintiff Bradford Zinn is a resident of Garden City, Kansas, and former coach at Highland. Defendant Jared Ross is a resident of Leavenworth, Kansas, and former assistant. Leavenworth is not that far from Highland, maybe, I think 30 minutes maybe. All right, here we go. Defendant HCC is a community college located in Highland, Kansas, and established and existing under the laws of the state of Kansas and pursuant to Kansas Community College Act, blah, blah, blah. ACC is a person within the meaning of 42 U.S.C. 1983. HCC is and has been at all relevant times a recipient of federal funding, and that's key. When you're receiving federal funds, there's certain things you have to do. There's laws you have to abide by. When you're receiving federal money, you can't just kick people out because you don't like the color of their skin. You can't refuse people to come to school there because of the color of their skin. There's certain things that you can't do. So the fact that they receive federal funding is important. This is where we get good here. Thanks, Boss Tacos. Leavenworth is an hour from Highland. Yes, J-Jax, federal funding does change things. If this was a private college, that'd be different, but it's not. They get federal money. Right, like not discriminate. Defendant Deborah Fox is a president of HCC and has served in this position since August of 2009. At all relevant times, this is good here. Fox was acting under color of law. She is sued in her official and individual capacities. So color of law is also another big thing. So she's being sued in her individual capacity, and I'm sure she will try to fight like hell and say, I have immunity and I'm going to hide behind the college. That's what she's probably going to try to do. Same thing with Doral, athletic director, and has served in the position since September 2019. Doral had authority to formulate policies and implement practices related to student-athlete recruitment, conduct, and eligibility. At all relevant times, Defendant Doral was acting under color of law. He is sued in his official and individual capacities. That's right, Rhonda. It is a big deal. It's a big, gigantic deal. Yes. Yes. Rhonda knows. Rhonda knows. Peggy knows. Same thing with Russ Karn. Long-serving member of the board. At all relevant times, he was acting under color of law and is sued in his individual capacity. His is, we'll get to his here. Defendant, okay, Board of Trustees is a statutory governing body. In addition to Karn, the board included President, here's your names, Nosy, Tom Smith, Vernie Coy, Charles Huss, Jason Taylor, and Carl Tharman. And I do believe it was Jason Taylor's wife, who's the teacher, who called Coach Smith's stepson an asshole in front of the class. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. If I'm wrong, I apologize, Jason Taylor, but I'm pretty sure it's your wife who's the teacher who called Coach Smith's stepson an asshole in front of a high school class. And the principal is aware of it and hasn't done anything about it. At all relevant times, the board was acting under color of law and has the capacity to sue and be sued. All right, Highland's a 2-year college. Here we go. Where Highland has just a population over 1,000 people. The racial makeup of the city as of the 2010 census was 84.7% white, 10% African American, 1% Native American, 0.4% Asian, less than 1% from other races, and 3.1% from 2 or more races. Now, right there where it's there's a little bookmark thing here. What do you call those little disclaimer things? I forget what a footnote. It says 1. We're going to go down here to 1, then we'll come back up, and it says, then as now, the overwhelming number of student athletes at Highland were African American. Because they were required to declare Kansas residency, they comprised nearly 10% of the population. However, on information and belief, there were and are only a handful of African American residents actually living year-round in Highland. I'm told there's less than 5 actual African American people that actually live in Highland, if you don't count people attending the college. HCC is a member of the NJCAA and competes in the Kansas Jayhawk Community College Conference. Now, I will tell you, this Jayhawk Conference is one of the toughest basketball conferences in the country. Every year, they almost win the national championship. So when we start seeing these stats coming up about Coach Smith and Coach Zen and Coach Ross and all the wins they had in this Jayhawk Conference, you got to realize that that conference is a beast. At one point, there were four teams out of that conference were ranked in the top 6 in the country. It was like 1, 3, 4, and 6 or something. But out of the 6 top teams in the country, 4 of them were out of this conference. It's every year they have 3 or 4 teams in the top 10, and they battle it out, and only one of them get to go play in the national tournament. Yeah, Susan, I don't think there's an insurance policy that covers racist people, although there could be. Peggy, you're talking about Gavin. He did not settle with the college. He did do a diversion thing, but no, he did not settle anything. And that's probably going to come up again at a later date. All right, here we go. Here we go. I need a cough drop. All right, in the fall of 2019, this is when this stuff started. In the fall of 2019, Coach Smith was entering his 9th season as the women's head coach. When you see these records, you're going to be amazed. He led the Scotties to a 35-1 season in 2017-2018, in which the team finished 3rd at the NJCAA Division II National Tournament. Now, I can tell you, when you go to the tournament, you play in a bracket. And that year they were undefeated and they got beat in the semifinals. And then they played for 3rd place, and the team that beat them went on to win the national championship. But that's the only game they lost, was in the semifinals, and then they won their next game and got 3rd place. And to go undefeated in that Jayhawk Conference is tough in itself. But to go 35-0 and then lose in the semifinals of the national tournament, that's a hell of a season. So that was 2017-2018. Smith owns 2 Jayhawk Conference titles, 3 region titles, and 3 national tournament appearances as Highland coach. So in 9 years, they went to the national tournament 3 times. 2013, they're 5th place, 2014, 2nd place, and 2018, 3rd place. Most recently, Smith guided the Scotties to a 24-5 record and Region 6 runner-up to finish the 2018-19 season. What you're going to realize is this 2018-2019 season is the season when all this stuff happened. The fact that they only lost 5 games is pretty incredible. All right, let's see. Then as now, the overwhelming number of student athletes at Highland Community College were African American because they were required to that's our footnote. Sorry. Now let me read this footnote number 2 that came up above. In or about 2015, Garden City head football coach Jeff Sims demanded the Jayhawk Conference change their scholarship restrictions to unlimited out-of-state scholarships. He claimed the residency limitations was discriminatory and, in fact, traced its origins to the early 1960s and pointed to statements by then conference officials who all but conceded that the rule was adopted for expressly this purpose. So back then, you could only have 20 outer-state scholarships, which limited people outside of Kansas coming to these colleges. Kansas, I think it's 86 or 87% white population. So when you're limiting your out-of-state scholarships, you're basically saying we're going to keep white people here. We don't want any people from out of state coming here. That's kind of why they changed the rule. I'll keep going here. After Coach Sims and the NAACP threatened suit, the conference capitulated. I don't know if that's the word or not. Whatever that word is. Capitulated. I don't even know what that means. Anyway, removing the 20 out-of-state scholarship restrictions and essentially removing all limits on recruitment of out-of-state student athletes. Dramatic change ensued. For instance, by the fall of 2019, of the 114 student athletes participating at the Highland Scotties football program, the vast majority were from out of state, and 104 of them were African American. So imagine this: you're there 2015, and you can only have 20 out of state players. So more than likely, you've got 85 white players from the state of Kansas and 20 out-of-state players. So by 2019, it probably went from 80 white players to 10 white players. And I'm sure some of these board members were not happy with that at all. Knowing what I know about them now, I'm sure that they were upset. So in 2019, they bring on Deborah Fox and Brian Dorrell, and they want to change things to go back to the way it was in 2015. That's just my opinion. Hold on here. Capitulated. Someone's sending me the the pronunciation. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, goodness. All right, and Rhonda's doing it too. All right. Paragraph 25. Oh, I'm tired. All right, here we go. Coach Smith, in his tenure at Highland, here's some more good stuff here. Etched his name in the record books as the winningest coach in program history with a 228 to 35 record. So 228 wins and 35 losses. So that's like, what, 10, is that two? That's 1.5 losses for every, 12 games or something like that. That's like three on the average, 3 or 4 losses out of the year. If you're playing 30 games a year, that's pretty good. What's up, T1? All right, while including a 126-8 mark at home and a 66-23 record in conference play. So that's pretty good because this conference is one of the top in the country. So if you break 50-50 in that conference, you're probably doing pretty good. All right, so 66-23 record in Kansas Jayhawk conference play. Those are the numbers entering the 2019-2020 season. He has guided the Scotties to the 5 best seasons in school history, including the 2017-18 season's 35-1 mark, the most wins ever for the Scotties in a single season. So they're coming off of a hell of a season in 2019. A season where they also broke 10 other single-season team records and several more individual single-season and career records, along with winning Highland's first outright Jayhawk Conference title and Region 6 title, as well as taking 3rd place at the national tournament. All right, so that's all pretty good. I mean, that's really good. All right. Previously in 2011, 2012, Coach Smith's first year at Highland Community College, the Scotties finished with a record of 28-4, finished second in the Kansas Jayhawk Community College Conference, achieved a top 5 national ranking for most of the season, and had the Jayhawk Conference Player of the Year. I will tell you that year, 2011, 2012, his first year, and I think they talk about it here. That school had not had a winning season in 15 years. He comes in his first year and they go 28-4. After not having a winning season in 15 years to go 28-4, that's pretty damn good. For those accomplishments, Smith was named the Women's Basketball Coaches Association National Coach of the Year. Not the Kansas Coach of the Year, although he was named the Kansas Coach of the Year as well, but the National Coach of the Year. The next season in 2013, he guided the Scotties to their first national tournament in 30 years and a 5th place finish. In 2014, he coached the Scotties to their then best season in school history, 33-3, winning their first Jayhawk Conference championship, back-to-back region championships, and national runner-up at the 2014 NJCAA tournament, a year in which the Scotties were ranked number 1 in the nation and among the top 5 for the entire season. For his efforts, Smith was named the 2013 and 14 Region 6 Coach of the Year. As a community college head coach, Smith has had 5 national tournament appearances and 2 national runner-up finishes. So this is not a guy that is just a average coach. This is a guy that is a hell of a coach that has hella wins. Yes, nope, yep, okay. I do read comments, and thank you for tuning in from Canada, and thanks for being here, and thanks for loving me on Tiger King 2. But yes, I definitely read comments and try to acknowledge everyone that's in the chat. So thank you for being here. We're not talking about Carol Baskin and her bastardly deeds, though. Today we're talking about racial discrimination at a college in Highland, Kansas. All right, let me keep going. While at Highland, Smith coached 13 All-Americans, 20 All-Conference players, 23 All-Region players, 3 Kansas Jayhawk Community College Players of the Year, and 3 Kansas Jayhawk Conference Freshmen of the Year. So out of 9 seasons, so 33% of the time, one of his players would be the Player of the Year or Freshman of the Year. He also sent 13 players to Division I programs and 32 players to 4-year programs and a few more to professional teams overseas. As a community college head coach, Smith has graduated 100% of his players who have come to play for him as a freshman and who went on to play at NCAA Division I schools, places such as Kansas, Oklahoma, Memphis, DePaul, Arkansas State, to name a few. 100% graduation rate. That's pretty good, too. He was co-founder of the Oklahoma Indian All-State Games and has held numerous free basketball clinics, not only in his native Oklahoma, but also in New Zealand and Australia. It really is, Rhonda. And yeah, and everyone here knows, like everyone in the chat right now, most people interact with everybody. So we're glad you're here. All right. Prior to, where's my Australia people? They're probably not awake yet. Prior to Smith's arrival at HCC, prior to Smith's arrival at HCC in 2011, the women's basketball team had not had a winning season in over 15 years. There it is there. All right, here we go to the next coach. Coach Jared Ross attended Highland from 2014 and served as a practice player for Coach Smith and the women's basketball team, which finished the season as national runner-up. Coach Smith hired Ross as an assistant coach in 2019. Ross is a third-generation coach. Before joining Coach Smith's staff, Ross gained coaching experience as a student assistant for the Missouri Western men's program for the 2015-16 season, and before HCC, spent the past 3 years as part of a coaching staff at Class 5 St. Joseph Central High School with the girls program. All right, Coach Ross had primary responsibility for helping players with academics, Here we go. Ross was named a young coach to watch by World Exposure Report in November of 2019. Because of the acts of the defendants and defamatory statements alleged herein, Ross's promising career is likely over just as it was beginning. I have checked in with Coach Ross and what he's doing currently, and he cannot get a coaching job. He can't. He has applied. He said if he gets an interview, that most of the times he thinks the interview goes well, but he can't get a job. And he said most of the time he can't even get an interview. So I don't know if these places are calling this school and saying, hey, we're going to interview someone that used to work there. What can you tell us? And one of these people at the school is saying, well, they got fired for academic dishonesty, or I don't know what's going on, but something's going on there for these people to not be able to get a job, especially with these records that they have. All right, Coach Brad Zinn joined Coach Smith's staff in 2017. Coach Zinn's primary areas of responsibility included skill development, strength conditioning, and recruiting, in which he excelled in persuading prospective student athletes from disadvantaged backgrounds and inner city neighborhoods to attend Highland. Most of Coach Z's recruits were African American. And I can tell you that Coach Ross and Coach Zinn are both African American people. And that's going to come up later in here. Despite Coach Smith building HCC women's basketball program to an elite level, as further alleged herein, he was forced out for fighting back against its discriminatory recruiting practices, among other instances of harassment and discrimination of current and prospective student athletes of color. All right, here we go with some background. The Deborah Fox administration. So this is the president of the college that came in 2019. All right. In or about early 2019, the former president, David Reist, retired from his post. On information and belief, pay attention here because you're gonna see how this all worked out. On information and belief, the Highland Community College Board of Trustees, at the instigation and or direction of defendant Russell Karn, hired defendant Deborah Fox as Reist's replacement for the upcoming 2019-20 academic year. Highland Community College did so for the specific purpose of implementing a strategy to drive away African American student athletes from HCC and in effect attempt to make Highland white again. I know I said that earlier. That's where I got it from, was from right here. This make Highland white again. They probably have hats. All right, here. This stuff you're just not going to believe. Fox had no prior experience as a college president, vice president, or other high-ranking administrative position at the collegiate level. Prior to being hired by Highland Community College, Fox worked as a finance administrator for the Independence, Kansas School District. 8 years before that, she was a vice president of finance at Highland Community College. Now, when she was there before at Highland, her and Brian Dorrell and Russ Karn were friends. Remember that. Shortly after Fox was hired, then athletic director Tyler Norman abruptly resigned. So they already had an athletic director. They hire Fox. The athletic director that's there, all of a sudden, I'm done, I'm out of here, he resigns. This is where you start putting things together. A search committee was formed to select a new athletic director, which included Coach Smith, former head football coach Aaron Arnold, men's basketball coach Jerry Cole, and athletic trainer Tia Collins. Fox immediately and openly circumvented the search committee, hiring her friend Brian Dorrell as HCC's new athletic director. Specifically, Fox forbade the search committee from even advertising the position nationally. The committee had only interviewed 3 candidates when Fox announced that Dorrell had already been hired. Upon information and belief, Doral had never applied for the athletic director position when HCC hired him. The search committee never met or interviewed him, nor did they ever see his resume. So you have a committee you put together to hire an athletic director. You have the winningest coach in your women's basketball program there. You have the football coach which you'll see in a little bit, had an excellent program, who has players playing in the NFL today. And the men's coach, you have coaches that you've put this committee together with, and you don't even use them. You go around them, and you don't tell them that you're hiring this guy. You don't say, here's the guy's resume. Can you look at it? Can you interview? You don't do any of that. You just hire the guy. Hold on here. Well, they did post it, but I believe they posted it on the Kansas Jayhawk website. I think that's where they posted it. All right, so he never applied. Here we go. Doral had no prior experience in athletics administration, either as an athletic director or assistant athletic director. Previously, Doral's relevant experience was limited to being an athletic trainer, most recently for the Northwest Missouri State University football team, where his brother was the head coach. Upon information and belief, Doral had been unemployed for some period before Fox selected him as the athletic director. So he's never been an athletic director before. And I got nothing against trainers. I mean, you need trainers, but trainers, they wrap ankles. They work on injuries. They're not athletic directors. This guy was a trainer. He wasn't even a coach. Normally, to be an athletic director, you have coaching experience or administration experience. Like, there's a lot of stuff, especially for college. He had none of that. He was a trainer and was a trainer for his brother's football team. Now, if I wanted to go be something at my brother's basketball team or whatever, I'm sure I could have done that easily. I'm sure he would have said, hey, yeah, sure, you want to be the trainer? Okay, you need to enroll and in school and take some classes, and I'll get you in. But to like, if I was a trainer for my brother and then all of a sudden I went someplace and I became an athletic director, something's wrong there. I wouldn't be qualified for that, and neither was Doral, and you're going to see he wasn't qualified. All right, here we go. Coach Smith had an initial meeting with Doral in or about September 2019. Here's where the juice comes from, Nosy. Matter of fact, Nosy, let me send you a link, because I'm going to bring you on, and J-Jax, I'll send you a link too, because I want you guys in here when I start reading some of this stuff. So give me a second, everybody. I'm going to send some links out to these people here. Hold on here. All right, so the position for athletic director was posted on the school's website and the Kansas Jayhawk website. Those were the two places where they posted the position for athletic director. All right, give me a second so I can get some more people in here. Hold on a second. Hold on, so I don't share. I got to make sure I don't share this stuff that I'm going to pull up here. So give me a second here, everybody, because this stuff is where it really starts to get juicy. Oh, geez, Nosy. I don't know which. I don't even know which of your Facebooks is the right one because you have so many. Hold on. Let me do it this way. Hold on a second. I'll put it in the Crusaders. All right, there you go. Just wait, Rhonda. Just wait. We haven't even got to the good stuff. Just you wait. All right, J-Jax, just a second here. Hello, Mrs. Ripper. Mrs. Ripper just got home. All right, J-Jax, yours is there. Peggy, do you want to jump on here or not? Yeah, see, because Peggy has information where Peggy says these kids have been through hell. They get searched illegally, She knows some of the background of what happened because of what happened to the former housing director there, Gavin Brown, when he was basically targeted. But she's seen video of some things that happened there that hasn't been put out. All right, so Nosy, you should have something. J-Jax, you should have something. You should have the links here. All right, so let me keep going here. And we'll, oh, hold on. Crap. Oh, I didn't share that. Thank goodness. My gosh, that would have been bad. Rhonda, I might bring you on later, but I really want to see you get mad in the chat. All right, let's go up here. All right, here we go. Coach Smith. Oh, wait, hold on. I have to. All right, we got Nosy. I got to make sure that I have the right. All right, are you there? Or to make sure I got the right speakers on.
I'm here.
All right, perfect. All right, and J-Jax come up. All right, I'm going to keep going here because this is where it starts getting. Yeah. All right, Coach Smith had an initial meeting with Doral in or about September 2019. Despite never having met one another, Doral lashed out at Coach Smith for no apparent reason, stating that he lacked integrity, that his players were an embarrassment in our community, and that Coach Smith needed to start recruiting more players the culture of the community could relate to. Coach Smith asked Doral to clarify his statement, saying that I'm not sure what you mean, and Doral responded by, you know exactly what I mean.
Oh my God. Are you sure you want me here? You might want to rethink this.
Hold on here.
I am flabbergasted. And I'm so embarrassed to even say the word flabbergasted. I'm not that old, but I'm just saying, like, I'm blown away.
Well, and this is what I brought up in my January 10th, 2020 video, is that these were one of the things that I was told was being said, is that this athletic director was telling coaches to recruit players that people in the community can relate to. And when you look at this town, there's 1,000 people there. There's maybe 3 people that live there that are African American, if you don't count the student athletes. So that tells you that, hey, we need people that these white people can relate to. But
African Americans dominate the fucking NBA, and they dominate the WNBA. Like, are they stupid? They dominate the NBA. There's like fucking I'm sorry.
Yeah, but here's
Feckin'
those are big cities where there's NBA teams. This is a small farming town in Kansas where
but
I know what you're
but their
saying.
athletic
Uh
department depends
huh.
on people of color. They have no athletic department. If you look at every single one of their fucking athletes, it's like you recruited black athletes for what? Just a fucking I can't keep cussing because I know your channel is
Well,
different.
well,
Feckin is what I said. Typo.
wait, wait till we get to the part where we start talking about the current records versus the records they used to have. Like for example,
Oh.
when they brought in the new football coaches and started their new recruiting program, the football team went 1-7. Now, if I mean, uh, I if you want to win, you can't limit yourself on certain races. Like it's a well-known fact that there are certain people who are better at some sports than other people. And when you
Right,
talk
but
about
if you look at the NFL, okay, let's just take the NFL for example. You have you have majority people of color, African Americans, whatever the fuck, people
in
refer them to, but
international, uh,
right. But then when you look at the breakdown of the quarterbacks of teams, majority of quarterbacks are white men. But at the same time, that doesn't
now I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Now,
Ripper.
this comment right here, where it says African Americans dominate NFL, NBA, WNBA, etc. Do they recruit these kids just to keep their promised contract and then get rid of them? Katie, if you stay tuned, that question will be answered because there were some students after the uh, 2019 football season was over. There were some students that played football that they would not let come back to the campus. They made them take their classes online from Florida.
Oh my god.
And I'm not making that up, but that
Oh
will
my
be
god.
talked about in here. We got the one of the great internet voices right here. J Jax is on here. What's up, J Jax? Can you hear us? I don't know if he can hear us.
Hello.
Hey,
Can
There he
internet
is, right there.
husband. How are you doing?
I'm absolutely doing great and blown away. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm
Yep, we
blown
can hear
away
you.
too. Yes.
Yep. All right, so
When
I'll
was it?
keep
When was this Wild River?
today. Just
Today.
today, this
Oh,
late this
I thought so.
afternoon.
Today.
It's hot off the press. Hot off the press. All right, I'll keep going because it's gonna get really good. In early fall 2019, another coach at Highland Community College reported to Coach Smith that defendant Fox, that would be the president of the college, Deborah Fox, told Coach Smith that the defendant Fox told him that I need to find a way to fire Coach BJ Smith because the fans and players would never approve of it. So you have the president of the college telling another coach, I need to figure out a way to fire this guy because he's got too much support by his players and the
He incited entrapment, basically. He is like, let's trap him.
Yeah.
that's what she's trying to do. It's like I got to figure out a way to get this guy fired because the players like him too much and the fans like him because I mean when you follow a sports team and you win, it's a lot more fun. I mean, when you have a team that goes 0-30, you don't have very many fans at the games watching. But you go 30-0, there's people involved. So she knew because of the 2017-18 season that they had or whatever that it was going to be pretty tough to get rid of him. I mean, they had to come up with a crazy reason.
In my
All right, here we go. We'll keep going. At various points during the same year, board member and defendant Russell Karn falsely told other members and members of the community that Coach Smith had acquired a car for a former player, Nikki, I don't know if that's Romolo or whoever, but a former player from a stolen car syndicate. Karn's statement was untrue, was made with obvious malicious intent, and constituted defamation per se under Kansas law. So basically, this board member was telling people, hey, Coach Smith has this stolen car from this stolen car ring and gave it to one of these players to try to maybe that was their way to try to win over the community or the fans. Maybe that's the way they go, hey, this guy's got a stolen car he gave to one of the players, so maybe we should fire him. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why anybody would come up with that. All right. Paragraph 46. Oh,
I don't want your head laying on the middle.
all right. During the fall recruiting period, Coach Smith secured.
Love you.
What was that?
Nothing.
Oh. All right. During the fall recruiting period, Coach Smith secured commitments from 2 standout players from the Kansas City area. Both were African American. Upon learning this, Doral approached Coach Smith and asked if these are really the kind of players we want at Highland. Smith responded that they were the kind of players he and his staff wanted.
Oh, my goodness.
In another instance, Coach Smith nominated one of his players for an academic scholarship. The young woman he nominated, who happened to be African American, excelled academically and athletically, earning nearly all A's while at Highland Community College. However, the administration overrode Coach Smith's election, choosing instead a white student whose GPA was significantly lower. Wow. Through his words and actions over the coming months, Defendant Doral would leave no question the kind of players that he and the Highland administration really desired. That is, white student athletes. All right, Rhonda, this is, and Katie, we're going to talk about the football team. We're going to talk about Joseph Cambridge and some of the stuff that happened to him, but also the former football coach that was there. Fall of 2019 had, and this is kind of when I got involved, because before this coach was forced to resign, I started getting calls, and I spoke to the coach. I spoke to some of the players, and they were telling me all this stuff that was happening. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, why are they suspending your players for no reason? And we'll find out here shortly, but 2019 head football coach Aaron Arnold was beginning his 9th season at Highland. So he's there same amount of time as Coach Smith. In late October 2019, the HCC football team under Arnold had achieved a 5-2 record and had just defeated the number 1 team in the country to earn a top 10 ranking. And this is another one of those deals where they play some of the top schools in the country in their conference. Throughout the season, Doral went out of his way to go around Arnold and directly harass, discipline, and drive away African-American team members. And that's where the lawsuit filed in March by the ACLU against Highland, that's where a lot of this information came up. Like there's quite a bit of information about these football players, because in that lawsuit, out of the 4 students, 3 of them were football players. All right, for example, following a loss to Garden City Community College, Highland Community College starting quarterback Joe Cambridge, who was African American, complained about the officiating to referees. The Highland chief of police, Brandon Wetstein, overheard Cambridge comment and reported it to Doral, who's the athletic director, who, with consulting with Coach Arnold, urged the officials to file a report, although they had not planned on it. So the refs didn't want to file a report because the quarterback said, "You all suck." I think that's what he said when I interviewed him. I think he said, "Yeah, I told them they effing suck." And the refs blew it off. It's no big deal. But this athletic director urged the officials to file a report. That's so stupid. When does an athletic director try to get their players in trouble? That's not what they're supposed to be doing. With consulting with Coach Arnold, urged the officials to file a report, although they had not planned on it. Coach Smith I think it's supposed to be overheard. Coach Smith overheard the head of officials call Arnold to say that he did not want to report Cambridge, but Doral was insistent that he do so. So here you have an athletic director telling the officials, "Hey, I know you don't want to write up a report on the guy for telling y'all that y'all suck, but I insist that you do it." All right, Nosy.
Athletic directors are supposed to protect their players.
Exactly. Right. If the refs came up to the athletic director and said, "Hey, you got a player that said something to us that are out of line," then the athletic director would go to the coach and say, "Hey, can you talk to your player? And, the refs had a conversation with me, and let's make sure, this doesn't happen." It'd be a great teachable moment. But instead, the athletic director makes these referees file a report. And then the report was filed, and Doral submitted it to the NJCAA for a ruling, which resulted in Cambridge being suspended for 2 games. And when I interviewed him, he did tell me he was suspended for 2 games. And then further.
Oh, we're saying that?
Yes, for saying you all suck. That's what he said. Y'all suck. And you guys are talking about the Peggy. Hold on here. There are famous people that went to this college. We need them to help bring. Okay. Aaron Arnold has more players. Hold on. Let me look up the numbers real quick. Aaron Arnold has more players in the NFL than 75% of the Division I colleges out there. This is a guy at a small 2-year college in Kansas. There's nothing to do there. And he had more players in the NFL than 75% of the Division I schools. That's freaking crazy. That tells you how good this guy was. And this athletic director is trying to sabotage their season by getting their starting quarterback suspended and kicked out of school. Because when I keep reading here, he was suspended for 2 games. And it says further, in addition to the suspension, Doral tried to have Cambridge expelled from Highland Community College for the incident. Upon learning this, Coach Arnold approached Deborah Fox and told her that he would not support this or other action against Cambridge. So he actually tried to get the guy kicked out of college for telling the refs they suck.
Absolutely insane, but shows a pattern or what they're doing.
It's going to get better. I know I keep saying it, but it's going to get better or worse. And it says previously, following the first game of the season, Cambridge had been arrested by Highland police for allegedly interfering with a traffic stop, although he was across the street on a public sidewalk at the time. And he went into detail with me about this incident where he had gotten back from their game, and his girlfriend dropped him and another player off at the Casey's General Store, which is a couple of blocks from the college. And they were walking back, and Joe's girlfriend was driving his car, and she went up to school, turned around, and was driving back, and she got pulled over. And the police chief, Brandon Wetstein, is the one that pulled her over, but he thought it was Joe Cambridge driving, because when he walked up there, he said, and Joe heard this guy say, "Oh, I thought you were Mr. Cambridge." So he pulled the car over thinking that Joe Cambridge was driving that car, but it was his girlfriend.
Oh, boy.
And Joe was across the street on a sidewalk and yelled across the street like, "Hey, what's going on over there? What's happening?" or something like that. And they arrested him for interfering with a traffic stop. And he wasn't interfering by law. That's not interfering. You can be in a public space and say something. I mean, he could have said, "F you cops," and they shouldn't be able to arrest him. Like, they can't
Correct.
arrest people for speech.
Right.
Anyway, so he got arrested for that, and I think when that happened, I think Doral thought that this guy was going to be, like a troublemaker or something, so he targeted him. And I will tell you that Cambridge graduated a semester early also. He was a smart kid. All right, here we go. 57. For example, oh, wait, hold on. Never question. Oh, wait. All right, here. Sorry. 56. Coach Arnold also reported numerous similar incidents of harassment against his African-American players and complained to witnesses that Doral had suspended some of them for petty and or pretextual incidents, while white student athletes were never questioned or punished over more serious misconduct. And I could go into many examples about this, because I did talk to the former housing director, and they told me crazy stories. Like, one guy was busted with weed 11 times and nothing ever happened to him. Some of these African-American students would get busted with weed one time and get kicked out of school. It's just crazy.
Wow.
All right, 57. Doral directed Arnold to suspend several players because Highland police chief, it's Wetstein, not Whitestone. Police chief Wetstein had told him they were spotted in a city park and smelled like weed. When Coach Arnold refused to comply, Doral told him that if he wished to keep his job, he would suspend whomever he was told. So the athletic director said, "Hey, the police chief told me he ran into your players at the park and they smelled like weed. You need to suspend them."
Because they smelled like, but no charges were filed.
Right. Yeah, they smelled like weed. The police chief told the athletic director, these guys were spotted in the city park and they smelled like weed.
Well, smelling like weed's really not illegal, so
It's not a crime, is it?
no.
And what if it was? What if it wasn't weed? What if it was something else? But yeah, smelling like weed's not a crime. So he wanted to suspend the players because this police chief says they smelled like weed. Maybe they really didn't. Maybe this police chief's just making stuff up.
That's right.
And Katie says you can't suspend them. That's double jeopardy. I will tell you that things that happen, these kids would get busted with weed, and the school would write them a fine, and then the school contracted with the police department. So some of the police officers were also campus security people. But say they're working campus security for the school, and they catch someone with weed, they'd write them a ticket or a fine from the school for like $200, and then they put on their policeman's hat and then write them another ticket for the city. So they get a ticket from the school and also the city. They'd get double fined. Anyway, I thought that was ridiculous, but I think they did away with that policy at some point but I'm not absolutely 100% sure. But they would double fine them from the school and the city. It was a great revenue stream for the city to be contracting with the school. So these kids get in trouble and they pay the school money and they turn around and pay the city money as well.
Was it just for my edification? Was it basically if they got fined for one, they got fined for the other? Were they basically the same amount?
No,
or you don't know?
No. I think in one instance the school on one of these things the school charged them $200 and the city would charge them $400. So the
It's still
city
bad.
charged them more. Yeah. It's the fact that you're working as a school campus security guard, and then you just pull out your city police officer ticket book all of a sudden, and it made me wonder: did they clock in on both? Like, were they getting paid by the city and the school at the same time?
Isn't that a conflict? That's a huge conflict.
Well, if they're getting paid double hours,
That too.
It's taxpayer dollars either way. So I always wondered, I was like, someone should try to get all the timesheets for when these guys worked and see if, you work 8 hours and you tell the school, I worked 8 hours for you. And then you turn in your timesheet to the police department and say, I worked 8 hours for you as well. I mean,
Let's see if they lined up.
Yeah. I'll keep going. It's it's going to get worse.
Oh boy,
I'm
waiting.
right, here's Doral also regularly reprimanded Arnold's African American assistant coaches for using vulgar language and failing to address him with what he regarded as the proper level of respect. And I'll tell you one instance of this. One of the assistant coaches was walking into the cafeteria of the school, and Doral passed him, and Doral said hi to him. Or Doral claims that he said hi to this assistant coach, and the assistant coach did not say hi back to him. Doral goes into the cafeteria, finds the head coach, and causes a big scene, starts yelling and pointing his finger in Aaron Arnold's chest, talking about your assistant coaches are going to respect me and blah, 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 like touching him in the chest, yelling where everyone in the cafeteria heard this and saw this because an assistant coach did not say hi back to him. And I talked to that assistant coach. I said, can you tell me what happened when, you were walking into the cafeteria and Doral said hi to you and you didn't say hi back? And he said, I never even knew he said hi. He said, I might have had earbuds in, or he said, I heard about it after it happened because Coach Arnold asked me what had happened. And he said, I don't think he ever said hi to me. He said, I don't know. He said, I was walking out he said, I was walking in, he was walking out, I guess, because I never heard him say anything. But Doral flipped out and caused a big scene in the cafeteria.
Given what's going on, my guess is Ripper, he didn't say anything to him. Just caused a big scene anyway.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so. Hold on. I saw Peggy put some numbers in here about the... okay. No, Peggy, it was not... The whole settlement was $100,000. That's total. And the ACLU and the attorneys got, I think, around $54,000 or something. But in all, I think the students ended up getting about $46,000 between the four of them. So, no, the total settlement was $100,000 altogether. And the attorneys got more than the kids did in that.
So basically, a little over 11,000 and something apiece.
Yeah. Don Mo Parks got 15 grand, and then the rest of them got 12,000 each. So was that 36? So okay, so maybe they got 50. The students got just a little over 50 total.
And the attorneys got the rest.
Yep. Yeah. And I know these students, like Antoine Thompson, he couldn't even afford a cell phone, and he couldn't get back into college, and they were offered this money. And when you can't even afford a cell phone, $10,000 is a whole lot of money.
It's the world.
Yeah, so the school bought him off, and the attorneys had to make the offer to them. They're like, the school made an offer, they presented it to their clients, and the clients took it. So yeah, Peggy, you're right. I got it mixed up. I thought the students got 46, but the lawyers got 46, and the others got part of it. And when you say they released Thompson's academic transcript, what they've done, and they're doing this to Coach Z right now, is they would kick these people out, and then they would send them a bill for like $3,000. And these kids couldn't pay it, so then they couldn't get transcripts to enroll into another college. And their higher education is stopped right then and there, unless they can come up with $3,000 or $4,000. But they're doing that right now to one of these coaches that's suing them. They sent him a bill, and he can't even get his transcript from there. Anyway, I'll keep going. All right, within 3 weeks remaining in the season, Coach Arnold was told by Deborah Fox that his contract would not be renewed, and he was forced to resign in or about November 2019 for refusing to follow Highland Community College racially discriminatory practices and continuing harassment of African American student athletes. I did talk to this coach when all this was happening, and he before he resigned, and he told me, I can't take it anymore. He said, I just can't take it. He said, it's nonstop them going after my players. He said, I just cannot deal with it anymore. And
I don't blame him.
What the school put out is that Aaron Arnold resigned because he was tired of coaching and he wanted to go and do something else with his life. But Aaron has never come out publicly and spoke. But that's not what happened. He didn't want to resign. He was forced to resign. And I have some recordings of Deborah Fox talking to other coaches, telling them, either you resign right now or your contract's not going to be renewed. I mean, I have recordings of her saying this stuff, and then they turn around and tell the media something different. They're hiding the truth. But these recordings, which I think maybe in the next few days I'll start releasing some of them, you guys are going to flip when you hear some of this stuff.
Gonna say that would be really interesting to partake of some of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What if I told you there was one recording where one of these administrators said, "Oh man, I better wait because the person who gave me the recording hasn't given me permission to share it yet, so I'm going to wait before I say anything." But it's bad. It's really bad. It's if I can release that stuff, you guys are really gonna flip, and so will the national media if I can get this one recording released. All right, hold on here. Let me keep going. All right, all but one of Arnold's coaching staff was also forced out by Highland Community College. The majority were African American, and I did talk to a lot of those coaches that was on his staff, and they were all forced out. All the ones I talked to anyway. I think there were two that might have stayed. I think, or maybe it was just the one. Arnold left Highland Community College as the third winningest football coach in program history. The football team finished the 2019 season 6-4 and claimed victory over 2 top 10 teams. Yeah, when they beat the number 1 team in the country, it was a big win from them or for them. And I think after they won that game, I can't remember if they suspended Cambridge. I can't remember how it played out, but they suspended Cambridge for 2 games. Their starting quarterback. And I think when I talked to him, one of those games he was suspended, they lost. But if your starting quarterback is suspended, you're lucky to go 6-4, especially
absolutely
for 2 games. And there were always other players. Aaron Arnold said that every week they were suspending players of his starters. He's like, some of my best players were being suspended for no reason. Matter of fact, Brian George, who was the number 1 cornerback in the country, got suspended for missing a meeting with a school counselor. And there was a baseball player who was white, who was on parole, who missed a meeting with his parole officer, and he didn't get in trouble at all. But when Brian George missed the meeting with his school counselor, he got suspended for a game. I'm not making this up. He missed a meeting with his school counselor. He gets suspended for a game. The white baseball player misses a meeting with his parole officer, and nothing happens to him.
This is the kind of story that if the media really sinks its teeth into, it'll blow up.
Yeah, and they need to. They really need to sink into it this time.
They do.
The first time. All right, here we go. Jeff Hancock, who's friends with Doral and Fox, by the way. Jeff Hancock was hired to replace Arnold. Hancock's football team went 1-6 in the 2021 season and 2-7 this past season. So you take a team that was in the top 10 in the country and you bring in your buddy, they go 1-6 and then 2-7.
Destroy the team.
Yep. Predictably, the racial demographic among Hancock's recruiting class looked dramatically wider than in prior years under Arnold. Of course. That's why they brought him in. After Coach Arnold's ousting, Doral continued to pressure remaining HCC coaches to stop recruiting players with wicks and dreads in favor of white student athletes. On one occasion, Doral flatly stated to at least 2 coaches that it was important that the school keep football players Antoine Thompson, Brian George, and Billy Joseph off campus for the spring semester because they were bad people. All 3 players were African American and all wore their hair in either wicks or dreads. And I talked to all of those guys. I talked to all of it. And Brian George said, I went back and they told me I couldn't come back to campus because I made the people in the community feel uncomfortable because of my wild hair. That's what they told him. That he could not come back to campus because of his hair.
Absolutely insane. Is it 1970, 1973, and we're back into the hippies and we don't like the long hair? And it's ridiculous, man. That is so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hold on here. Hold on here. Yeah, I mean, Antoine Thompson was one of the ones in that lawsuit that they would not let these guys come back. All right. I will tell you. In the information, the recording. Well, I'll just say this. One of these administrators told one of these people named in this lawsuit told one of the employees at the school that Hitler was a great leader. I'm not making this
Uh-oh.
up. I am not
Uh-oh.
making this up. They told someone Hitler was a great leader. He just had the wrong what was I'm trying to think of the exact wording that they used. Hitler was a great leader. He has had the wrong idea. It was something like that. But they actually told an employee that Hitler was a great leader. And I'm not
Oh, my
making this
God.
up. They actually said Hitler was a great leader. He just had the wrong message or something to that effect. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Unbelievable.
it is. And now that I'm thinking about the guy that was on parole, he was a basketball player, not a baseball player. He's a basketball player. That's what it was. He wasn't baseball. He's a basketball player. I don't know why I was thinking baseball, but it was a white basketball player on parole, and yeah. Anyway, yeah, Hitler was a great leader.
Maybe he had the wrong PR firm working for him or something. It's terrible. You can't.
Really
I mean,
is.
to me, Ripper, you can't put Hitler really in any context and say that he was great.
No.
I just
No, not at all. Because he was not a great leader unless you're racist. If you're racist, then hell
Yes.
yeah, he was a great
Oh, yeah.
leader.
absolutely.
You bet. If you're racist, then by all means you would think Hitler was a great leader. There's no reason for anyone to say that, especially when this school was sued for racial discrimination back in March of 2020. This was said after that. This was said after that happened, that Hitler was a great leader.
Is this by chance? Thought that you can just decline to answer.
I will
Is this on a
decline to answer.
Is this
It
on a
is
recording?
It is on a recording, yes.
Oh,
it was,
my
it
God.
was recorded. Yes. Yes. It was recorded. Almost everything was recorded. People are not going to believe how many people were there recording things. This administration was going around running their mouths to so many people, and so many people were recording.
In today's age, how could they not? I just don't understand, because everybody's got a cell phone and the capability to
know.
record now.
I know. And Kansas is a one-party state. As long as, you can't go into an office and turn your device on and then leave and have it record and then go back an hour later and you can't
Right.
do that. But if you're there and you're part of the conversation, you can
record
record
it.
it. Right. You don't have to notify the other parties. Now, like in Florida, you can't do that. Florida is an all-party state, but in Kansas, it's a one-party state. And like I said, I will release some of the recordings because I know what's going to happen. What happened last time? This school came out and said this stuff is all false. We're gonna beat them in court and blah blah blah. But this time, I'm going to release some of the recordings so that school cannot come out and lie, and the people in the community know that the stuff in this lawsuit is 100% true.
Good.
Katie, I agree with you that people do need to record the local law enforcement there. And I have requested that many times with people, but they're scared to record them. They're scared they'll get caught. But I do have recordings from the cafeteria when there's campus security or the cops are in the school cafeteria and they're basically profiling these students. They'll see these kids in the cafeteria and start looking stuff up on their phones, trying to see if these kids have any records or different things. They start targeting them in the cafeteria, and they'll say, "Who's that?" And
I'm sorry, River. I'm just going to say, and as you said, that some are a good portion of these campus security were actually police officers on the force locally.
Yes, they are. They work as police officers also, but they're contracted with the school. So they'll go in work in security for the school as police officers, basically. But they're contracted by the school.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hold on here. I'm trying to get some stuff in the chat here. I don't even want to ask the next one. We are, hold on here. We are, or they setting the non-white students for theft or asset. What's that mean? I'm not understanding. I don't know what that
I'm not
means.
sure. Explain that, Everly.
Yeah, Neverly, if you can rewrite that, because I'm not sure, I don't know what you're talking about, but this is a good point. Yeah, how toxic is it that you're an employee and you're just walking around recording everything on your phone because you want to make sure if you're targeted that you have something on your phone that will protect you. And I will note that
setting the students up.
Oh, sexual assault. Hold on here. How toxic? Sexual assault. Setting up. Oh, okay. No, nothing like that at all. It's they'll follow them around and just harass them and tell them you can't be out after dark. You need to be in your dorm room. What are you doing out here? If they're out sitting in their car in the parking lot, they'll go out and harass them, and then they'll search their cars. They just harass them, but they're not saying that they're doing things. Although some of the students did tell me that they got busted for weed and they never had weed. And that one video that I posted, you see those cops come in that dorm room and tell them they're being arrested for possession of weed, but they never even looked for any weed. The director of housing, I guess what it was is someone smelled weed in the hallway. The director of housing knocks on the door. Him and his assistant come in, and there's 4 students in there, 4 African-American students, and they're just sitting there, but you don't see any weed, no nothing. And then the cops come in, and they don't go searching and saying, hey, we found some weed. They just come in and say, we're arresting you guys for weed. And the guys are like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? One of them says, I wasn't smoking anything. And this was like a few hours before they were supposed to fly back to Florida. And so they arrested him. And what the players told me is they got arrested. They went down there and had to pay cash so they could catch their flights from Kansas City to Florida because it was the fall semester. And they're like, it was like a few hours. We're just waiting to leave to go to the airport. And then all of a sudden they show up and arrest us and make us pay like $1,500 cash. And they're like, we had to pay it or we're going to miss our flights back to Florida. So,
Wow.
Yeah, they're not saying that they're doing things, but there are stories of people saying that they got charged with weed and they never had any. And on another note, on this Jeff Hancock, where it says they went 2-7 in the past season, I forgot to mention that out of those 2 wins, one of them was a forfeit. So really, it was 1-7. It was a forfeit.
It just made it worse.
Yeah. So it really should be 1-7, but you still count the forfeit as a win. But yeah, so they went 1-6 and then 1-7.
So basically, they're just building and building this atmosphere of harassment, and the guys or these athletes just couldn't survive in it. Basically,
to get them, they're just trying to get rid of the African American players, and
right.
That's what they've done. All right, now we're going to get back to basketball again. The women's basketball program. All right, plaintiffs' unlawful suspensions. These these coaches were wrongfully convicted. I think that's what you're going to walk away with when you hear what happened. They were tried and they were convicted all by these administrators. And actually, there was never a trial, but you'll see it unfold here. All right. In or about December 20th at the semester break, Coach Smith Scotties were 13-0 and ranked number 5 in the country. The team went on to finish 2019-2020 season with a record of 21-3 and still in the hunt for postseason play when the COVID-19 pandemic cut short the season. Coach Smith achieved this success notwithstanding Highland's persistent efforts to undermine him with no concern for the harm to the young women who played for him. So I think you'll figure out 21-3 was pretty successful after you see what happened to this team. In December 2019, this would have been, I think, December 21st, 2019, Coach Smith was told by President Fox that the women's basketball coaching staff were suspected of violating NJCAA academic dishonesty bylaws. Fox said the school was still investigating the matter and refused to disclose to plaintiffs any further information or details as to the nature of the alleged violations. So what happened is December 21st, President Fox handed Coach Smith a letter saying that they were suspended for academic dishonesty and they were not to contact any of the players, not come to the school, not access computers, no nothing. They are just suspended with pay. You cannot talk to players, anybody from the school. You can't talk to media, no nothing. That's actually what it said. It did say you cannot, the letter I read it, said you cannot talk about this to anyone. And of course, the school went out and talked to the media about it and released their little press releases and other things. And the coaches couldn't say anything.
I would have hired a lawyer immediately, but anyway,
go
ahead.
They did. They did.
Good.
And you'll see that, I mean, it helped, but it really didn't because, well, you'll see. All right. Disclose. All right. Despite a still ongoing investigation and without providing plaintiffs notice or the opportunity to be heard, HCC immediately suspended the employment in mid-season, ordered them to stay off campus and have no contact with the team or school staff. Highland Community College ultimately abandoned attempting to prove a NJCAA academic conduct violation, and no such violations were ever found to have occurred. Fox gave no information on what procedures, if any, HCC intended to use to investigate and adjudicate these serious allegations against plaintiffs, nor any timeline for doing so. Coach Smith asked Fox why HCC was not providing plaintiffs the same employee disciplinary procedures and protections that otherwise applied to faculty. For reasons unapparent, President Fox told Coach Smith that Highland Community College simply did not make that process or any other available to coaches. What?
Hell, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, sorry, we don't do that stuff for coaches. That's only for other employees.
Yeah. You guys are excluded. You're out.
Right. You guys aren't really employees. You're just coaches. You don't count. Fox, Doral, and others falsely stated publicly on numerous occasions that the women's coaching staff had been doing players' homework, a rules violation never alleged or found with the intention and purpose of damaging plaintiffs' reputations. And when we talk about recordings, there are recordings of this stuff. Just FYI.
Good.
Yeah. Immediately after plaintiff's suspension, in a telephone call between Doral and the father of the highest rated Kansas recruit in the history of the school, Kate Ogle, Doral falsely told the father that plaintiffs were guilty of extensive abuses and recommended that she transfer from Highland. Ogle, in fact, transferred in a matter of days after the call.
I'm just dumbfounded. Wow.
Now this Kate Ogle was the best player that they had ever recruited out of the state of Kansas. So they wanted, they're saying you need to recruit Kansas players, and Kate Ogle was a white player. So they recruit the best player they had ever recruited, and these coaches get suspended, and then this athletic director tells this girl's dad, "Oh, there's extensive abuses, and she should get out of here." He wanted to sabotage the team, so he gets rid of their best player, basically.
Absolutely.
If you're an athletic director, you want your best player there, but in this case, he runs her off and lies to her, or lies to her dad.
Right.
And I will tell you, when all this stuff was happening, I had a ton of parents call me, and they were attempting to contact the athletic department, this Brian Doral guy, over and over, and he never ever called them back. But the parent of the white girl calls in, and he calls them back and talks to them. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Yeah, maybe it's just a coincidence.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either. Hey, also on that win that they had when they went 1-7 the second year, that win was over Fort Scott, Kansas, who had a horrible program. Their football program got so bad that they ended their football program. They don't even have a football program there anymore. They closed it down. Like, that's how bad the football program was. That's the only victory they had over a football program that doesn't have a program anymore.
That's terrible, man.
Yeah. All right. During the first month of plaintiff's suspensions, the women's team was forced to cancel 5 games. In late December 2019, Fox emailed the women's team that the coaching staff had been placed on paid leave pending the NJCAA and internal investigation concerning alleged academic dishonesty. All right, someone said, how did Ripper get involved with this case? Neverly, I will get into how I got involved in this, but I started getting information over 3 years ago regarding the police department and what the police department was doing to the black students at the college. That's how I first got involved. And the person that was giving me the information, I told them, if I start looking into this and I start going up there requesting public records, they're going to connect me to you, and they're going to retaliate against you if I do this. And because there is a connection between me and someone up there, and I'll get to it. But I felt like if I went up and started requesting public records, they would figure out the connection and they would retaliate against this person. So we decided that no, I'm not going to do anything, but I'll just kind of pay attention to things. And then in the fall of 2019, the football team was being targeted by the administration and the local police department. And then that's when I really got involved. When that started happening, I had no idea that in December of 2019, it would go to another level. I thought it would stop at the football team, but once the football coach resigned, I think these administrators thought it's fair game. We're going to go after anybody and everybody now. And when that happened, then I really got involved. But when we're done with this, I will go into that and tell you why I got involved. I'll tell you exactly why. Let's see here. Peggy's talking about the drug testing policy. I don't know if she's reading ahead in the lawsuit, but it's not random. It's not random drug testing. I had a coach call me today, told me it's not random drug testing at all. They're targeting certain players to test them for drugs. So, all right. All right, 76. The team had been scheduled to return to campus on December 28, 2019, but Fox told them instead to report on January 3rd, effectively canceling several planned practices. Now, you got to remember, Christmas break, when they come back from Christmas break, they get into conference play. That's the most important time of the basketball season for these colleges is right after Christmas break. You come back, you practice, and you hit conference play, and that's where you finish the season. And if you're going to go play for a national title, this is when it happens, when you come back from Christmas break. So they canceled several practices and canceled how many games? 5 games. 5 games. That's a lot of games. When you play 30 games, that's more than 10% of the games that they canceled.
Absolutely.
And I have some recordings regarding that stuff as well, which is really because nobody wanted to take the blame as to why these games were canceled. And Brian Doral was like, I don't know what happened. The other team didn't show up. And then the other team, when I called the other teams, I said, well, someone from Highland called us and said that the game was going to be canceled. So nobody from Highland wanted to admit to calling the other school. And that might be something that, if they called from one of those school phones, we might be able to get those school calls, on the on a public records request.
Yeah, something else, you would think that when one team calls the other one, that has to be something that's kind of tracked through the whatever their league is.
In the Kansas Jayhawk conference. But as you'll see here pretty soon, the conference nor the NJCAA did anything to help. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. I'll keep going. All right. Enter about early January 2020. Assistant men's basketball coach John Oler was appointed briefly as interim coach. Upon information and belief, before terminating Coach Smith, Highland Community College offered interim head coach John Oler the position, which Oler declined. So before they even fired Coach Smith, they're offering the job to John Oler. John Oler was the assistant men's coach at Highland. And check this out. Highland offered Oler Coach Smith's position, even though Oler had previously been fired as the head coach of men's basketball at Kansas City, Kansas Community College for gross violation of the same NJCAA student-athlete housing rules that Fox later and falsely accused Coach Smith of breaking after she was unable to produce any evidence of academic misconduct or any related NJCAA rules. This is kind of hard to follow, but I'll tell you what happened. There was a board meeting, and the board actually said there's no evidence that shows there was any academic dishonesty. There's no rules that were broken. And when the board said that, Fox came up with something new, and it's like, well, there was this one thing that happened and, there's a housing thing and whatever. And then she reported it to the NJCAA. So when they couldn't prove academic dishonesty, she started looking for other things. And the exact thing she accused Coach Smith of doing is what this John Oler got fired from previously at another school. But she was going to hire him to be the coach, although he had been fired for doing that exact thing. That doesn't make sense, right? You're like, well, Coach Smith did this, so we need to get rid of him, but you're going to turn around and hire a coach who got fired for doing that exact thing. It makes no sense whatsoever to do something like that, except you're just trying to get rid of Coach Smith because he's not going to go along with your plan. All right, I'll keep going. On January 4th, 2020, on January 4th, 2020, the women's team met with Fox, Doral, and interim coach John Oler. And here's a footnote here, too. At various times throughout the above events, Fox and Doral would refer to an investigation conducted by the NJCAA, a process that literally does not exist. Unlike the NCAA, the NJCAA has no enforcement staff to investigate alleged rules violations. But yeah, they were telling people that the NJCAA was investigating,
But they said it anyway.
Yeah, and the NJCAA they don't investigate these things. The schools are supposed to self-investigate, and then they turn their findings over to the NJCAA, and then the NJCAA says, okay, you need to suspend that player for a game, or you need to suspend the coach for 4 games, or whatever it is. But they don't actually investigate. But these administrators kept telling people the NJCAA is investigating, and they weren't. All right. This is still talking about the meeting that was on January 4th, and I do have a copy of the meeting because one of the players recorded the meeting, and it's great that they recorded it. And I have the whole meeting. All right, so paragraph 81. President Fox told the team that Highland Community College was provided information in the fall semester that academic dishonesty occurred and that plaintiffs had been suspended before the Christmas break. I think it should be Christmas break. Before the Christmas break as a result. Fox further stated that the information we were given is pretty severe and pretty solid. When players questioned why their coaches were suspended at midseason for violations Fox described as occurring in the fall or perhaps even the year before, Fox refused to answer. She also declined to answer any questions regarding the nature of the alleged violations or explain whether any players were involved or faced eligibility issues. And then 2 days later, on January 6th, Fox and Doral met with the parents of players to likewise inform them the coaching staff had been suspended pending an investigation into charges of academic misconduct. And I will tell you that the parents are the ones that made that meeting happen. They demanded that these administrators meet with them because they wanted to find out what happened. And I have that meeting also because multiple parents recorded that meeting. And that meeting, I'll definitely release that one because you guys get a kick out. I think it's 54 minutes long, and you can tell that Brian Doral thought he was going to walk into this room full of African American people and push them around and treat them like they were not smart, and they flipped the script on him. They started Fox and Doral started talking about all this metadata stuff. And they didn't know that one of the parents was a specialist in the Army and did like high level metadata stuff. And so he starts saying, well, that's not what metadata does. You know, what you need to do. And he starts telling what they actually needed to do. So he called them on their bluff. And at one point, Doral gets frustrated and kind of blows his top. But I'll definitely let you guys hear that because when you guys listen to it, you're going to see that Doral and Fox underestimated these parents. All right, let's see. All right, Fox told the parents that information was presented to the school in the fall semester regarding uploading by coaches of student work or presenting it as student work. In regard to plaintiff suspensions, several parents asked why it occurred mid-season when HCC claimed its investigation began months before. a question which Fox avoided answering. Likewise, another parent pointed out that colleges rarely, if ever, suspend coaches alleged but unproven violations of NCAA and NJCAA, citing Bill Self and the University of Kansas as a current example. Fox evaded answering that question as well. I will tell you that the attorney that these coaches have, he was the attorney for when the University of Kansas went through their big investigation last year. There was a gigantic investigation into like the men's program. The attorney that Kansas University had is the same attorney that these three coaches have. they've got one of the best attorneys when it comes to this stuff.
I was going to say I'm not familiar with that particular thing. I don't really follow it. So
yeah, me neither.
Really good lawyer.
Yeah, for this stuff, yes. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, because, KU men's basketball program, they're one of the top programs in the country. And so the school's going to try to protect that. And they're going to hire one of the best attorneys they can. But yeah, these coaches have that same attorney. Fox and Doral attempted to justify the suspension, saying HCC was acting to appease the NJCAA and to avoid having to forfeit any victories in which ineligible players might participate in their remaining games. This statement was clearly pretextual because every member of the team played anyway through the end of the season, and this purported risk would remain regardless of plaintiff suspensions. And as alleged above, HCC never proved even one NJCAA academic honesty bylaws. So nothing was ever proved. Nothing ever. No players were ever suspended for anything whatsoever. All this was a big lie. It's all it was. Defendant Fox and Doral made numerous false and defamatory statements to parents. For example, Doral stated that the plaintiff's suspension was not an easy decision, but the only person that's responsible for this is BJ Smith. And that, as far as the information we do have, it's egregious enough that it warranted suspension right now. He described the inculpatory evidence he claimed the school developed so far as ample, and that it was just one instance. This alleged misconduct has not even been looked at with previous seasons. So he's talking about there was just this one thing that was so bad that they weren't even looking at all the other stuff that had happened. But this one thing was just so horrendous or egregious that it was just so much. This next paragraph. Doral further represented that there was so much information that it was not even, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. When pressed by another parent, he responded, "Ma'am, I have been in college sports for 25 years. Doral called the supposed violations by plaintiffs obvious, flagrant, and intentional." Now, you guys that have been here, you guys know that Doral was an athletic trainer. He was not an athletic director. When he says, "Ma'am, I've been in college sports for 25 years. This is the worst thing I've ever seen." He's not been in that position. He's been an athletic trainer. He wouldn't have ever seen any of this kind of stuff. He's out.
So misleading. Yeah.
Right. But he wants to come in there and act like he's this big, giant, powerful know-it-all. And he's like, "This is the worst thing I've seen in 25 years. And you're like, and if you don't know his background, then you don't know. And a lot of these parents probably didn't know he was an athletic trainer. But he's coming in here trying to make it sound like he's this big, long-time qualified athletic director, and really, he's not at all. Matter of fact, he's so bad that right now I think the women's and men's basketball teams are going to have to forfeit some of their games this year because he didn't turn in their eligibility forms. And his excuse was, "I didn't know you had to do that." He's been there 2 years and he doesn't know how to turn in those forms?
Apparently not.
Yeah, it's pathetic. Hey, Bethany, welcome. I haven't seen you in here, so I guess you're late to the party. Thanks for stopping by. And this statement that Doral says, it's recorded. You hear it. You hear this whole thing, and you're going to love it when you guys listen to it. Matter of fact, what I might do, J-Jax, is give it to you guys, and then you guys can play it on your Foul Play channel and go over it with your group of people and listen to these people talk.
Sure. Just let me know. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to do, and then I'll bring it over here at another time or something. All right. January 2020 Board of Trustees meeting. On or about January 8th, 2020, Highland issued a press release stating plaintiffs had all been suspended pending an investigation into an alleged NJCAA rules violations involving academic misconduct. And let me remind you, President Fox knew there was not a rules violation because she had been she had talked to someone in early December or late November that was qualified, and they told her, no, this is not a rules violation. So she knew weeks before this thing ever happened that there was not a rules violation, but she went ahead and did it anyway, knowing
Press forward.
Knowing that nothing wrong had happened, but she didn't care. All right. Coach Smith was asked to meet with the board in executive session on or about January 14, 2020. When Coach Smith asked if he was allowed to have his lawyer present, his request was denied without explanation. Plaintiffs Zinn and Ross were also summoned before the board, and like Coach Smith, their request to have an attorney present was denied by defendants. So when you said earlier they should have hired an attorney, they did. And the school board had this executive meeting, and they said, can I bring my attorney? And like, no. So that's bad. Plaintiffs have no advance notice of either the purpose or the subject matter of the board meeting and still lacked notice of the nature of the claimed academic rules violations. At the meeting, board members admitted that ACC's purported investigation failed to reveal any NJCAA academic misconduct violations, nor did the board inform him of any other alleged violations of NJCAA bylaws. So they have this board meeting, and the school board's like, there's no rule violations. Like, there's nothing there. And what was the date on that? Was that the 14th? Around, yep. All right,
Yeah,
January
so.
14th. All right. So then 4 days later, January 8th, Coach Smith met with President Fox again on or about January 18th when she informed him that he would be reinstated the next day. He asked when Zinn and Ross would return. Fox responded that we're going to hold off on your assistance for now. They have been active in a lot of girls' accounts, and the board has some concerns about that. Fox stated that she hoped both assistants would be returning in 7 to 10 days, telling Coach Smith that neither appeared to have violated NJCAA rules, but did violate HCC student identity policies. So I don't believe at this point we're going to hear anything from the NJCAA. Sorry, Rhonda. Smith told Fox at some point, I need my name cleared publicly, to which Fox didn't respond. Coach Smith was reinstated on or about January 19, 2020. However, Ross and Zinn remained suspended. They were never told the reason. And I will tell everybody out there, if you ever get in a situation like this, make sure that you record everything, because I'm sure that this thing where it says Smith told Fox at some point, I need my name cleared publicly, to which Fox didn't respond. I'm sure that Fox will say that never happened. But if you have a recording, you can prove it happened. So for those of you out there, record everything that you can, if you can do it legally. After Coach Smith was reinstated, defendant Doral continued making disparaging and defamatory statements about Smith's character and integrity. Falsely accused Smith of previously violating NJCAA extra benefit rules by providing one of his players a car which Doral claimed without basis was stolen. Moreover, Doral and another HCC employee, oh shit, Christy Kelly Blevins, posted defamatory statements on this and other false accusations on social media through the latter's Twitter account. All right, so here's what happened here.
I hope they've captured those tweets.
Absolutely, J Jax. And what happened here is Doral or his girlfriend or someone over there set up a sock account on Twitter. And I can't remember the name of it, but they came up with this, like Neighborhood Watch or something like that. And then they started putting all this defamatory stuff out about Coach Smith to try to say, well, he did this and he did that and this and that to try to deter people from actually looking at him or the school or whatever it was. But they had other people involved into it. But this Christy Kelly is an employee at the school also. Like, she works at the school as well. Now, if you're the athletic director and you're posting things about one of your employees and you're making defamatory statements, I think it's illegal in the state of Kansas. I'd have to look up the laws, but it seems like when it was happening, I thought, if this was the athletic director, I think what he's doing is illegal. But what ended up happening is someone came forward with information, of course. That always happens eventually. But before that even happened, Doral, when he went to college at Southwest Missouri State or wherever it was, he wrote some theses, and those were published. And you can access them online. So all you have to do is go and look at some of the stuff that he's written in the past and then compare it to some of the stuff that was being posted on this Twitter account. And you could clearly tell that the same person, the same person was writing this stuff. It was, at first I thought, I don't know. But then there became times when you could clearly tell it's the same person. And then, of course, when someone came forward, then you're like, yeah, okay. You're busted. And the fact that it's in this lawsuit is even better, because this Christy Kelly Blevins, she had nothing to do with this stuff. She was just like an employee. She wasn't part of this, Fox, Doral, and all this group. She was just, I guess, she's going to be right. But something happened, and I don't know if they told her to do these things or, I don't know exactly what happened. But I'm surprised to see her name posted in here. So she might end up being collateral damage. I don't know.
Like I say, she's pulled into it now.
She sure is. Her name's right there in a federal lawsuit. Yeah, absolutely. And she used, yeah. Anyway, all right. On one occasion, Coach Smith learned from a prospect that a competing coach had told her he would be fired the next meeting of the board. Knowledge that could only come from someone at HCC. So Coach Smith is talking to one of his recruits, and his recruit tells him, Coach so-and-so from, Johnson County Community College or whatever said that you're going to be fired at the next board meeting. So, I shouldn't commit to your school. Something to that effect. It's crazy. What's up, Michael McKinney? Yeah, all right. So Bethany's behind in the chat. She's talking about the funding and then find a way to get rid of them to keep the money. That's exactly what I thought had happened too, Bethany. They get the federal money, kick these kids out of school, keep it, and then they bill the students on top of that. All right, let me keep going. All right, so someone at the college was telling these other coaches in these other conferences that Smith was going to be fired. In addition to never having been given notice of the allegations against them, plaintiffs were not apprised of the procedures HCC would follow. I don't even ostensibly. I don't even know what that word means. I don't even know if I've seen that word. Ostensibly. I have no idea
Uh,
what that means. Would
I'll look
ostensibly,
at.
yeah, it would ostensibly follow. I have no idea what that means. The timeline for the investigation or what procedures HCC would use. Uh, HCC failed to follow its own rules and policies regarding these and related matters, and left plaintiffs' fate to the whim of President Fox and her administration. And on this paragraph 102, where it says they failed to follow, one of the things that the school claimed was that they could not discuss the investigation or anything to do with their administrators. And then they turn right around and say the people responsible for all this is Coach Smith, Coach Ross, and Coach Zen. After they said they can't speak about it, they turn around and name these coaches as being responsible for all of this stuff. And they actually blamed them for other things that were happening in the community. Durrell, I think at one point said, if it's the coaches' faults that this has gotten to be this big of a deal. They blamed it on the coaches. All right. However, okay. There's no evidence that anyone at HCC engaged. You're going to like this. HCC engaged in any investigation of the allegations. Damningly, listen to this, Jax. HCC failed to interview a single member of the women's basketball team, including the two players who were supposedly involved in the instance of academic fraud. Nor did any representative of HCC interview plaintiffs regarding these allegations, let alone inform them of their nature before suspending the entire staff. They actually said they were doing an investigation, and they never ever interviewed these coaches or any of the players.
Not a single player. Nothing.
Not a single player. Yeah.
All just made up.
How do you do an investigation if you don't interview anybody? I guess you could do one, but
Yeah, I guess.
But you're going to see something that they posted later. Oh, here it is right here. Here it is right here. On February 21st, 2020, HCC issued a statement on social media as follows. We would like to thank the Highland Community College student athletes for their cooperation during the investigation. They want to thank the student athletes for their cooperation. This statement is false because the school never bothered to interview a single member of Coach Smith's team, who were all off campus and on break at the time.
These people just didn't give a damn.
No, they just make stuff up. What they were doing is just saying stuff so that the community would think that they were actually doing something. And all the while, these coaches couldn't even say anything because in their letter from the school, they couldn't have contact with any staff members, team members, media, nobody. They couldn't talk to anybody. So the school could just go out and run their mouth and say all these things that weren't true. And these coaches couldn't say anything because then they'd violate, these supposed rules that they were given.
It just blows me away. I just, worked my entire life as long as I could, and I just couldn't imagine working for any employer under those conditions, Ripper.
That makes up these stories because you stood up for these kids.
Right.
The college exists for these kids. I mean, their purpose is, you work there for these kids. You want to help these kids get a higher education. But this administration that is there, that's not what they're not there for these kids. They're there for something else.
They're there for themselves.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And right up to even the HR person there has allowed this stuff to go on. All right. Upon information and belief, HCC failed to ever interview even one of Coach Smith's players. including the 2 allegedly involved in the rules violations. And these school administrators actually named these kids. They told people these two kids cheated. They went around saying that these 2 kids cheated. All right. Likewise, in the same statement, HCC that it would like to thank the parents of the student athletes and the patrons following the program for their insight and contributions to reporting possible violations. Upon information and belief, the school never interviewed any players' parents regarding its investigation, and there's no record of any reporting possible violations to HCC at any relevant time herein. To this day, Highland has never disclosed to plaintiffs the identity of any supposed witnesses nor the subject matter of their testimony, even though the conclusion of HCC's investigation resulted in plaintiffs' termination. Just so everybody knows, they fired all 3 of these coaches. Well, I guess they didn't fire them. They just didn't renew their contracts. Same thing, though. They
Yeah, in effect.
Yeah, they told them, you can resign. If you don't resign, we're not going to renew your contracts. That's what they told them. And that's recorded also. You can resign, or we're not going to renew your contracts.
It's basically the same thing as termination to me.
Right. And one of the coaches said, so if I don't resign, I'll keep getting paid though, right? Until my contract runs out. And Fox says, yes, but you can't coach. You can't coach. You can't come to the school, blah, blah, blah. It's like, so I resign and get nothing, or I just stay on and I don't have to work and I get paid. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'll just stay on and get paid and not work. I mean, that's,
Sure.
All right, I'll keep going.
Ripper, these 2 students that allegedly did this cheating, have you talked to them, or has anyone?
I have talked to them. I talked to, there's only, I think, 2 players that I did not talk to when all this happened. One of them was Kate Ogle, the one that transferred. But
Yep.
I talked to all of them. And one of them was on the lawsuit against the college. When the ACLU filed that lawsuit, one of the female that was on there, I think she was one of the ones that was accused of cheating.
Okay.
But not all of them, not all of them got on that lawsuit. They really didn't. They were scared.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of students were like, I'm really scared if I do that it's going to affect my future in college.
Of course.
And it did with some of these students. And hey, Jeff Jones, I know you've been here. I just haven't said hi to you, but thanks for being here. I know you've been here for a while. And yes, Rhonda, Kate Ogle was a white student. That is correct. All right, let's see. Oh, here we go. On information and belief, notice and or correspondence falsely stating that plaintiffs violated NJCAA rules was placed in their respective personnel files. So there was never a rules violation, never anything to it, but the school has placed things in these people's files, in these coaches' files, saying that they cheated. It's so wrong on so many levels.
It is.
Just, previously, HCC had never been accused of NJCAA violations within its women's basketball program under Coach Smith. Likewise, neither Coach Z or Coach Ross had ever been accused of or investigated for NJCAA rules violations in their respective careers. Under NJCAA rules, an accused coach has no right to challenge a self-reported violation by his or her institution. On behalf of himself and his staff, Coach Smith contacted the NJCAA directly to inquire about the alleged violations, but was told he had no direct means of challenging them and had to rely on HCC to do so. Next week, we're going to be making phone calls to the NJCAA because this needs to be fixed. When you have a school that is targeting people and these individuals cannot call this place and say, hey, I need to defend myself. Sorry, you can't do that. That's up to the school. That's a problem. You have no one on your side. So there's going to be some campaigns next week to call the Kansas Board of Regents, the NJCAA, and other places, because this right here,
It's wrong.
Yes, for the coach to call the NJCAA and they turn around and say that has to go through the school, and the school's the one targeting him. That's not right, and that needs to be changed, and the NJCAA needs to fix that. And I think we can make that happen.
Yeah, there needs to be a third party that's unbiased and unconnected.
Absolutely. Or the NJCAA needs to have like an internal affairs department or something at the very least. I don't like internal affairs, but there's got to be something. All right. In or about February, Coach Ross took his concerns about the racially toxic environment at Highland to the media. In a Kansas City Star article published on February 5th, Ross was quoted as saying that while racial tension is natural in an environment such as this, it is an open secret that on and around the main campus in Highland, black students are often subject to scrutiny without cause from campus security officers and other authorities. I've had some friends that have been through some bad things up there, he said. Ross said he finds it hard to believe that the administration isn't aware of this problem. However, the college has repeatedly denied these allegations. Everything that campus security officers do, they have to get permission from the administration to go forward with, Ross told the Star. I'm not too sure that they can walk into somebody's dorm without permission. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that administrators know everything that's going on. Ross said he had spoken with students who have had their dorm rooms entered and searched in what he considers to be fishing expeditions for evidence of campus policy or criminal violations without probable cause. Ross said other students have had their vehicles entered, searched, and or towed, also without apparent justification. I can also tell you that Ross had his car searched at one point, and the reason he was stopped is the officer said his headlights weren't on. But Ross' response was, my headlights are automatic. But they still searched his car. And they pulled him over. They made up a story and said your headlights weren't on. And he's like, yeah, they were. They're automatic. They're all like, I don't turn them on and off.
Part of the ABS system, it's been that way since what, the mid 80s?
For a while. I mean, now my Celica has auto lights, but my I don't think my wife's Subaru does. I think if you turn it on, they'll shut off when you turn the key off. Hers is different. I think I have to turn hers on if I drive hers, but I don't. But I know my Celica, the lights come on automatically.
Right.
At night, and it's a 2003. So I assume Ross was driving. I mean, Coach Ross he's still like in his early 20s, I think. So he was probably driving a car that was 10 years old. These young people like these nice cars. So I bet he's driving something that had, it's probably a later car, I bet. Anyway, Ross previously told the Atchison Globe of this alleged climate of racial unfairness, including the allegedly unjustified searches and tows. Coach Z filed a complaint, similarly filed a complaint with the NAACP concerning the discriminatory and hostile racial environment at HCC arising from or relating to the events alleged herein. And just Rhonda says, no headlights is not probable cause to search. We're going to get her started. we might have to be calling Highland Police Department when we're done, Rhonda. All right. Upon information and belief, Highland's decision not to reinstate and subsequent decision to terminate Ross and Zen was motivated by racial animus and in retaliation for their engaging in protected activity. I'm sure that the school did not like it when Jared Ross went to the media and told his stories. And
I'm sure they didn't.
Yeah, because you can look it up. Just look up Jared Ross, Highland College, racism maybe, and I think you can find a couple articles out there. Where are we at? I think I'm gonna have to do just a little bit more and stop because we're only at page 21 and there's 45, and I'm gonna have to finish this tomorrow because my hip is killing me. But I think tomorrow afternoon I'll finish. But I'm gonna do one more. I'll do this part where they fire these two coaches, and then I'll come back. Hey, what's up, Fatal? Fatal, we're talking about the lawsuit that was filed against Highland Community College today for racial discrimination. All right. Fox fires Coach Zen and Coach Ross in about early March 2020. Now, this is when the pandemic hit. Remember this. This is when the pandemic hit, because you remember it's like December is when it kind of started getting out there in 2019, but March 2020 we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Oh, absolutely.
In about early March 2020, Fox met with Coach Zen to inform him that Highland would not be renewing his contract and offered him the opportunity to resign. Zen objected that he had no warning and no opportunity to meet with a lawyer. When Coach Zen asked, "Why was I suspended?" Fox flatly told him, "We're not going to reveal that." And there's a recording of this. I've listened to the recording. So everything you see here comes from this recording. Fox gave Coach Zen 24 hours within which to respond to her ultimatum. She also told him he had to vacate his campus housing within 10 days. Now, in the beginning of the conversation, she didn't give him 24 hours. It was, you need to resign or we're not going to renew your contract, and I need to know what you're going to do right now. It was like, I'll give you 5 minutes. And then he was like, I need some time to think about this. And then she eventually gave him 24 hours. But in the beginning, it was, I need to know right now.
That's an ultimatum.
It was
wow.
pathetic. And the HR person, Eileen Greninger, or whatever her name is, she was in that meeting too. You can hear her talking in this meeting. And the HR person should be the person standing up for these kids, but she wasn't doing that. When I listened to that recording, I was like, why is this HR person not stepping up and saying, hey, we need to take a step back and think about, what we're doing. There's a pandemic and we're kicking this guy out of his living place. And Coach Zen was, I think, from Georgia, from Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So, hold on. Wow, it's 12 o'clock.
Yep, 1 o'clock here.
Yeah. All right. Someone just texted me and said, "Don't forget about the time the campus security walked in on one of the girls while she was in the shower." And this was after this all happened, but they're knocking on the door, and it's a basketball team, the women's team, and some of the girls in the dorm and the other room said she's in the shower or whatever. The security guard still went in, used the key to go in her place, opened up her bathroom door while she was in the shower.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I have recordings with that thing too. I was just, because I got a call. I was up there when it happened in Highland. All right. Let's see. HCC never provided a reason for Zen's suspension prior to any investigation, nor did it ever disclose why he was dismissed before it was complete. To the contrary, on or about March 24, 2020, Coach Zen had a telephone conversation with President Fox, which she stated there were no findings against him specifically by the NJCAA. He asked her to confirm this fact in writing, to which she agreed. The next day, Zen wrote back, thanking Fox for her response and asking again that she state in writing that there are no findings or sanctions against him by the NJCAA. The reason we know that she agreed is because there's a recording of this. I'm just putting that out there. Record everything, people. And these coaches and these employees at this place did a wonderful job with all of their recordings. Regarding the ongoing HCC investigation, Zen also asked Fox to elaborate or provide more specifics of what he had been accused of in terms of academic dishonesty or other claims. Fox never responded. Moreover, as alleged above, Fox even told Zen that he was found not to be involved in any NJCAA violations, but refused to confirm her statement in writing and fired him anyway. Now you got to think about this. They reinstated Coach Smith, told him that he didn't do anything wrong, and your assistant coaches were kind of involved in all this stuff here, blah, blah, blah. So, we got some more investigation to do with them, but they never bring them back. So they're telling Coach Smith, we're going to reinstate you. You didn't do anything wrong. Then they're telling Coach Zen, you didn't do anything wrong, but he still has to resign or his contract's not going to be renewed. You're not doing anything wrong, but you're getting fired anyway. I mean, that makes no sense.
That makes absolutely no sense. So this Coach Zen and this other coach didn't do anything wrong either.
No, none of them did. None of the coaches did anything wrong, except what they did wrong was they kept recruiting people of color. That's what they did wrong.
They kept doing their job properly and got in trouble for it.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Wow.
At around the same time, Fox also informed Coach Ross that Highland Community College would not be renewing his contract and that he faced the same choice as Zen. That is, Fox told Coach Ross that he could resign his job immediately or stay suspended until his contract expired at the end of the season, as she did with Coach Zen. President Fox gave 24 hours to decide. When Ross asked the reason why, Fox refused to say, stating that she was not required to explain herself to him. Highland Community College also evicted Ross from his camping housing with only 10 days notice in the middle of winter during a deadly pandemic. Further, HCC decided to evict Zen and Ross, even though its supposed investigation was ongoing and neither was ever found to have violated any NJCAA rule, a fact that President Fox personally confirmed to Zen and we have recordings of. HCC, they didn't put that in there, but I added that in. HCC had no written lease agreement with Coach Zen or Ross, who are therefore month-to-month tenants under Kansas law. HCC's decision to evict them both on short notice of just 10 days accordingly violated Kansas landlord-tenant law. See KSA 58-2570, requiring 30 days notice and breached the parties' respective oral lease agreements.
I was going to ask you about that, about them throwing them out that quickly. They didn't sound right.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's not right. And they, these people are, they're just bad people. And this lawsuit is finally one step closer to exposing this place. But there will be more. Let me read a couple more of these, then I'm going to have to go. HCC's eviction of plaintiffs Zen and Ross from their campus housing was motivated by racial animus and in retaliation for engaging in protected activity and opposing its racist agenda. President Fox also contacted the Jayhawk Conference commissioner and falsely stated that there were serious rules violations within the HCC women's basketball program, and she was trying to clean up some really bad stuff. During the same time frame, on information and belief, defendant Doral posted numerous derogatory and defamatory statements about Coach Smith on social media via his then girlfriend's Twitter account. In or about June 2020, Fox demanded that Coach Smith resign or his contract would not be renewed. And that's also recorded. Just FYI. All of this stuff is recorded. That's what's so great about this, is that I can read any of this stuff and then I can play a recording of it to confirm that what's in this lawsuit is true.
And see, that's so rare and it's so outstanding. I can't tell you.
Yeah, it really, I mean, it really is. And had I not been involved, I don't think all these people would have been recording this stuff. So let me.
I'm glad you got in it.
And before we get to this Title IX stuff, I'll do this tomorrow. But I think it was Katie that asked how I got involved in this. I can't remember if it was Katie.
It was Neverly.
Neverly. All right. So Neverly, is Neverly still here?
She's a California girl. She better be.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Well, you all that are here, which we have a small crowd tonight, but most of you that are here, you've known me for a while, for years, since the Stephen Avery stuff, which was 4 or 5 years ago. And so you guys know 6 years. So you guys know that this little community that we have, we're really good at doing certain little things, or exposing people for corruption and things like this. I'll say long story short, when the school went after Coach Smith, they had no idea that his brother had a YouTube channel and a community of armchair detectives that like to expose people. So that's one reason I got involved. But this Coach Smith that we're talking about, that's my brother. But the school had no idea when they went after him that Coach Smith had a brother that had an army of people that like to expose people for corruption and just absolutely, shit like this, all this racist stuff. Michael McKinney says, Rubberjack Media goes ham on mofos like a boss. Well, it's not just me. There's a lot of people involved. And I'm telling you, if I didn't have an army of people to help with this stuff, it'd be really tough to do it. It'd be really tough to do it for one person to do it. And yeah, Peggy, if they only knew, if they had only known before they started this thing that there was these people, this group of people that could rise up and help others, I don't think they would have ever tried it. But they didn't know. And they also went after me too. I mean, they have come after me with stuff. And there's the local media up there. The local media up there, like the Nicole Bacchus case, the local media up there, with the exception of one newspaper, has only been telling one side of the story. They'll interview President Fox. And they actually brought up me in one of their interviews and said, they watched a video and the person posting these videos is the brother of Coach Smith. Like, that's supposed to discredit what I'm saying. But when I called the reporter and emailed the reporter and said, hey, I've got information. Let's talk about this article that you wrote. I have recordings of all this stuff. I never got a return phone call, no return emails, no nothing at all.
Of course not. Oh, no.
Yeah. So that's going to change though, because next week, well, I'll come back tomorrow and I'll finish this. We're at 134, but next week I plan on putting some campaigns together to where we call the Kansas Board of Regents, we call the NJCAA, and we are going to make some noise and get these people out of these positions. Yeah, there actually is a Facebook group that I had started when all of this stuff happened, but I can't remember what the name of the Facebook group was that I can't remember what I named it. Let me see if I can find. I just don't remember. The Change Highland Project. Hold on, I'll post it in here. Give me a second here. Let me see. The last time I've been on this Facebook group, September 15th, 2021. That's the last time that I posted in there. And I will tell you, remember in September of last year, I posted a video titled Confessions of a Parent. And it was one of the parents of one of the students at Highland. And I think that video was like parent 6 of 19 or something. There's more interviews I have with parents, but I've just been saving them until this lawsuit came out. So probably in the next few days or a week or so, I will release another interview with one of these parents, and the parent, I can't remember if they identified who their kid was or not, but their kid might have been one of the ones that was accused of this cheating. But I will do another interview because you guys have to hear what these parents went through as well, because they suffered. I mean, they went through the whole thing. Their kids are being discriminated against in college because of the color of their skin. It's absolutely ridiculous. And some of these kids, they're the first kids in their families to ever go to college. And some of them were kicked out and they still owe money and they can't go to another college because they can't get their transcript. So it's
unacceptable, Ripper. It's absolutely unacceptable.
It really is that you would end someone's higher education just like that. But that's what's happened. All right, I'm going to get this link for the Facebook group here. Let's see. All right, hold on. I'll turn that down. I'm getting ready to post it in the. All right, there it is, right there. There's the link for it right there. It is called the Change Highland Project, I think. It's a small group. The Change Highland Project. That's the name of it, and it might be a secret group. And I am going to limit the people that enter that group because I believe, there's some audio recordings in there. Here's one that says this isn't public knowledge yet. But I have, here we go. Here's one. This is March 2020. This isn't public knowledge yet, but I've come to learn that Coach Brad Zinn was found to have no findings against him for academic fraud. Even after the president of HCC has been informed, he is still suspended. He was fired for no reason. So there's some stuff in here because I was posting stuff in that Facebook group. But if you request, you might have to inbox me in Facebook to tell me who you are because there is stuff in there that we don't want these administrators to have. Jeff Jones, first generation college students. It's tough. It's very tough for them. And then they get into a place and it's stopped because of these racist people. It's horrible. And we have a chance to make a change and we need to get national media attention on this. This is so horrific that I think national media is going to eat this up. But we've got to help get the story out there for sure. Anyway, if you guys see me on Facebook and you don't get in that group, just send me a message or email me at ripperjackmedia@gmail.com, and I'll have to find out who you are before I let you in there, I think. All right, J-Jax, you want to add anything before we go? I know Rhonda's not going to be able to sleep very well tonight. She's going to be really mad.
Yeah, no, not, well, I'll have to show Rhonda some exorcist photos. She likes those late at night. Just throwing it up. Yeah, I'm good. Appreciate the invite, and really, really excellent. I'm eager to learn more about this case. It's just it's just unacceptable, man.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
Sorry. So sorry to what happened to your brother, man. I hate the injustice, and it's one of these things. It's like tangling with a chainsaw. You just can't win,
Mm-hmm. Right, and I'll tell you, if I think if I hadn't made that video on January 10th, 2020, if I don't make that video and all these other people came forward with information, I don't think we have a lawsuit, because
a different story.
I think so, because so many people came forward that had seen some of this stuff happening, but they were scared. They're like, I work at the school. I can't afford to lose my job. Or, I live in that city. If I do something, the police department's going to target me. I can't do anything, but I've seen this. I've seen it, but I can't do anything. But they were willing to come forward and give information and or record meetings and other things. And had it not been for all of these other people, I don't think there would be any justice whatsoever. But
it's so important. These recordings, they're so important.
Yeah, and you guys are gonna love them when you start hearing them. You're gonna be like, holy cow! I can't believe we have all this information, and because I know what's going to happen. These people are come out and say this stuff is false. It's not true. They're going to do their media interviews like they did last time, but this time, I'm not keeping my mouth shut. Last time I stayed quiet because we needed for them to dig their hole deeper and deeper and deeper, and they dug a big ass hole. And
big time.
Yeah, you guys will not believe some of these recordings that we have. But all right, hold on here, Rhonda. Can we find a link for the interview that I did with the parent? Is that the one you're talking about, Rhonda? Hold on. Let me turn off this screen sharing thing so I don't show something. I do have. Let's see. I have a Highland Community College playlist, but I don't know if I have that interview with the parent on that, or I don't even know if I have the interview I did with Joseph Cambridge in that playlist. If not, I'll update my playlist tonight before I go to sleep. And all you do is go to my channel here, go to my playlist, and under the playlists, there will be one that's titled Highland Community College. Let's see, playlist, Highland. Let's see. Yep, you're right. Okay. There is one interview on there, but the one I did with the quarterback, it is not in that playlist. So I'll get that added. I'll get it added. Here's the one I did with the parent of one of the students right there. And when I made that video in January of 2020, I specifically talked about a student that got kicked out for something. And this is the parent of that student that I mentioned in that video. But she talks about it too. She actually says, they were, I think, driving in the car, and someone sent them the video. And as soon as they heard me tell the story about this one guy getting kicked out for, what she knew, she's like, that was my son you were talking about. I knew it was his story, but it's right there. And the one with Joseph Cambridge, I'll get the link for that too, and post it for you. That one I did not too long ago. The one with Cambridge. But I'll get it before I go here for you, and I'll post the link. Yeah, Cambridge's story is horrible because he was targeted by this athletic director and the police chief for no reason except that, well, my opinion is that he was black. And for whatever reason, Brian Doral just did not like Joseph Cambridge, I guess. All right, give me a second, Rhonda, and I'll get that one interview, and I'll put it in the description before I go here. If I don't fall asleep. All right, there it is right there. I found it. But racism. Let's see here. Hold on here.
Yeah, discrimination, targeting.
It's the video or the title of this one's Racism at Highland Community College in Kansas. Racist police chief, racist admins with all question marks.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to put question marks so that, it's,
right.
I'm
Rebuttal.
I'm asking a question. Yeah.
Sure.
But, and I posted the phone number to Human Resources in that video too, in the description. But yeah, there it is right there. There's the video for you, Rhonda. So it's a couple hours, or that one's an hour long, I think, with him, and the parents like an hour long too. But yeah. All right, everybody, thanks for being here. I know it's late for a lot of you. J-Jax, thanks for showing up and keeping me company. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Always, man.
Yep.
And
Appreciate them, bud.
Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow afternoon, and I'm going to start with this Title IX retaliation thing, and we'll go from there. All right, everybody.
Yep.
Thanks again. Share the lawsuit, please. We need this story out there. For J-Jax and for Ripper, which is me, everybody out there, stay safe. Don't let people be racist at public colleges. It's not right. All right, everybody, we're out. Peace.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks, J-Jax. See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, Ripper.
All right.
Yep.
Bye-bye.